Today we're answering the question, who made God?
But who made that God that made a God?
But who made the God that made God that made God?
But who made the God that made a God that made a God that made that God?
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
But who made a God that made the God that made the God that made the God that made the God that made us? Okay, we have a problem here.
Houston, we have a problem. So today we're speaking about the question, who made God? And people want to know for various reasons.
I mean, they want to know for various reasons, right? You want to know who made God, either to try and disprove God, or maybe your picture of God is too far away and you think, well, maybe there's something behind the curtain. Maybe there's another truth or a hidden conspiracy theory when it comes to God. Or maybe they just want to know what role God actually kind of plays in their lives, because people are unsure. Other reason could be like, what are the physical attributes? Because if we know how God's made, if God's made,
if God is made,
if we know how God's made, then we can know what he like contains and what is his physical attributes in that kind of thing. So people want to know, how God is made, because they want to, for different reasons. Actually,
it's almost like I gave this example. It's almost like the made in China example. Like if you want to invest in something long term, you're not going to the China shop to buy that.
Yeah, but that makes sense, because if you want to know how something's made. You need to know where it comes from and those type of things.
So you want to know, like, where does it come from, how long does it last, and how it was made. You want to know those three things if you want to invest in that.
But hold on, you said God made in China.
Made in China.
Could you just imagine if God was made in China? Do you think he'll have like that little sticker on his bottom of his foot that says made in China?
That would be really funny. I think instead of manna falling from the heavens, it would be like noodles.
Noodles falling from the heavens. Yeah, and remember China always has like a little bit of knockoff stuff, let's be honest. So it probably won't be the Trinity, it'll be the 2 + 1.
And David wouldn't kill Goliath with a stone, he would like do Kung Fu stuff.
Kung Fu, like a ninja style.
Yeah, karate stuff,
Yeah, it could work. I think that makes sense to me. So if God was made in China, it would look way different. We'll have one of those little cats that do this. That thing's for me so cool. I love that. It's my favorite part. But I must say that when we think about God being created, it really challenges the Christian faith, because if God is created, then God isn't outside of this thing of time, space, and matter. That's what you asked, right?
That's like where does it come from?
Where does it come from? Place.
How long would it last?
Time.
And how it was made.
Matter.
What
it's made out of, right? And I think anytime we think about stuff in this world, we want to know, like, time, space, and matter. What does it consist out of? How is it put together? And that's going to help us to understand kind of like whether God is made or not. Because, and this is the first thing, just by the way, that helps us to discover whether, God is made or not. And the first thing is to know that there are 3 things that everything is consisted of and everything is made out of, and that everything is bound to, kind of like these three entities. It's time, space, and matter. So us as humans, we're bound to time. I mean, we don't go back in time except in movies, Back to the Future, and
that never works out.
And it never works out. It never works. So don't even try. So time, we're bound to time. We're bound to space, and we occupy a space around us.
Exactly.
I'm bound to Bloemfontein. I can't be in Bloemfontein and in another place at the same time. I'm bound to it, and I'm also bound to matter. Matter affects me. So like anything matter-wise, that is Aina, and this thing is heavy, and so matter will always affect me. I can't change those things. But if we look at God and we say that God is created, there's a category mix-up. They call it the category fallacy. Fallacy. But the category fallacy is pretty much this. It's putting God in the wrong category. Because God is not created. God is creator.
That makes sense.
He's a creator. But he is creator, not created. And what that actually means is like it's a mix-up of category, because if we say God is made, then what we're saying that he can't be the one that makes. Because it's only the one that makes that can make. If that makes sense. That is what he does. And it's kind of like asking the question, how much do you think, if you answer this question, I'll give you 100 Rand. Are you ready?
Okay.
So how much do you think my voice weighs?
2 milligrams.
You can't measure
I
it,
can't
right?
measure that.
Or what does the color pink taste like?
Probably like strawberries. But no, I can't.
You can't.
I can't taste pink.
Pink is not something that you can taste. So then let me ask you this question. Who made God? It is the same category fallacy. It's something that is not in the right question. The question is wrong because here's the thing. It is only something that is outside of time, space, and matter that can create time, space, and matter. And we read that in the Bible. We read it in Genesis.
Yeah.
We read it even in John when he says, in the beginning was the Word, Jesus. And the Word was with God. He is God.
Yeah.
And the Word was God.
God.
And then we see the picture of creation.
Yeah.
Right? So that in the beginning there was God. So there's another thing that Jesus even says when he rocks up and they ask him, Jesus, who are you? And he says, I am the great I am.
Yeah.
Notice how Jesus doesn't say I was or I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Or he says, no, I am. And he says, I'm not like right now. He says, I am.
Yeah.
That means I'm not bound to time and space and
or
matter.
Yeah.
I am bound to nothing because I am. I
Yeah.
just am.
Yes.
I am everywhere
Yeah.
I am. And so the picture of that is understanding that God is outside of time, space, and matter.
Yeah.
Because only something outside of time, space, and matter can create something within time, space, and matter.
He's the creator of it.
He's the creator of it, right? So that makes sense. But that helps us to understand the second picture.
Yeah, and that's the picture of dependency. So
Ooh, dependency.
yes. So we are dependent on earth. If you want to live, we need an earth. But the earth also needs a sun.
So it's
So it's us.
Us.
It's us.
Okay.
Then it's earth. That's earth.
Okay, Earth.
And then it's the sun. The sun is big.
The sun's bigger than
And
us.
then we get the picture of like
The galaxy.
the galaxy.
It's bigger.
It's bigger. And then we get the picture. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do this now. Of God.
Okay, God's Barney apparently.
God's body brain big.
But he's much bigger than
But
us.
then we also we want to continue with that because now we know there's a God, but who made this God to make the galaxy, to make the sun, to make the earth, to make the people?
Because, I mean, this guy needs that one, and this one needs that one needs that one. So there is something that had to create this, which makes sense. There's something that had to create the universe.
Yes.
Right? And so, is there something that then created the thing that created the universe?
No.
Why not? Because why couldn't there just be another? We're going down the line here.
Yeah.
You might as well.
It's an infinity thing. It's going to continue and continue and continue and continue and continue and continue. And
That makes sense.
That doesn't, that makes sense. And it also doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for God to create the God, to create the God, to create the God, to create the God. So like we just explained, this is a continuing thing. This is going to infinity, and that's not good news.
That's not good news.
That's not good news. So there's only one God, and He is not the start. He's the creator. Once again, like you explained, He's the one that created the things. He didn't start things. He created it.
Yeah, and I mean, if we think about that picture, right, is that if we have a God that is created by another God, then we're in a very scary place.
Yeah.
Because then we have a God that is bound to time, space, and matter. Which is a very limited God.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at the Old Testament, that is what a lot of the people did. I mean, Moses went up the mountain, the guys freaked out, and then Aaron was like, let's make a golden calf. That golden calf is not we're not telling stories about that golden calf of how it transformed people's lives. No, that golden calf was a man-made thing. And so if we think that God is made by something else, then it is not God itself, right? It can maybe be an image of God, but it's not God itself. And so if we say that there's God number 2, 3, 4, and 5, there had to be just one God to create the earth because something outside of time, space, and matter had to create something inside of time, space, and matter. So there can only be one God.
So the infinity God, that's not good news.
That's not good news. But the big thing behind this, and that pretty much answers the question we have today, but the big thing behind that is why is it so hard to believe? Why is it so hard to believe? Because I think that's why people ask this question, is because maybe it's so hard to believe that God created us.
Yes.
And why would it be so hard?
We want that physical evidence. We want to see that stuff and everything. So we actually prepped something, and with the power of camera, I'm going to make it appear now. Okay. Thank you.
That was impressive.
Thank you, Magic.
You should see his magic tricks. It's amazing.
So we're going to do another magic trick. We're going to do another magic trick. So, would you say there's something in this glass, Brent?
I've seen this trick before. I just want to... No, there's nothing in this glass, sir.
Okay. So, if I take this paper...
And you waste it.
And I waste it. I crumble it up. Now press it down there. Okay, so
In the glass.
in the glass, except for this piece of paper, would you say there's still something in this glass, except for that paper?
Well, other than the piece of paper in this glass, yes, there's nothing else in this glass.
Okay. So, if I do this,
You mess on the table.
why is the paper still dry?
Ooh. Do it again. Obviously, the paper's still dry because obviously there's oxygen in the cup that keeps the paper dry.
Exactly. But can you see the oxygen?
No.
Can you feel the oxygen?
In my lungs a little bit, I guess,
Lungs
if
a
I
little
breathe
bit.
in.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah. And that also, it's the thing of your perspective, right?
No.
At first you didn't think there's anything in the glass. And now I've proven to you, first of all, this is not magic, okay? This is really just oxygen doing its
Yeah,
thing.
this is oxygen. But that's what faith is, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is what the discussion helps us today with, is that when we look at things like, who made God or evolution, which we have another episode on, if we look at those things in the context of a preconceived idea, like if you could pass me the cup, the preconceived idea of that there's nothing in the cup, then we're not coming to it in the right picture.
Yeah.
But if we come into the picture and allow God to show us what he is actually busy doing, I think that gives us a new perspective,
Yeah.
a new way of looking at it. And that is what faith is, right? It's seeing the things. And so what the Bible does, what God does, is he puts in perspective for us what he actually looks like through the word, through a bunch of spaces. But not only that, it's an experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really experience.
It's experiencing God at the end of the day. It's experiencing him. Faith is not something that we can tangibly grab, but we know it's there. It's like oxygen. I can't grab the oxygen in the room, but I know it's there because there's proof of it. And the same thing with God is that we know that he created this world because there's proof of it.
Exactly.
There's proof all around us. And I want to just read this piece of scripture for you guys. It's in Hebrews 11, and it says, "Now faith is reality of what is hoped for, and the proof of what is not seen," right? "For by this our ancestors were approved." And then it goes on, "By faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God," which is God speaking, his word. And then it goes on to say, "so that what is seen was made from things that were not visible."
Yeah.
So it's this thing of the things that weren't visible, the unknown things, now God comes and makes them visible. He makes them tangible. He puts them in time, space and matter. And so it's answering the question, can God be made by something else? Who made God? No one.
No one.
No one made God.
God just is. I am.
God is. He says, I am, therefore I
Am.
am. So no one made God, but God made the world, he made the universe, and he made us.
And that's actually very good news, because whenever you're doubting, whenever creation starts to cause doubt, he is the one person you can go to, because he is the one that made everything.
Exactly. He understands it.
He understands
He
it.
understands how we work. And so I want to encourage you that if your faith is, if you're going to these questions because you're asking the question, who made God and what about evolution and all those different things, I want to say maybe it's time for you to stop and maybe experience God for yourself. Just like this piece of paper experienced dryness in the water.
Yeah.
Just as that was experienced, maybe it's time for you to experience God and not just, debate it out.
Yes.
Because there is so much proof that God is the one that created, which is beautiful.
Maybe you should just change your perspective.
I hope that helped you, and we'll check you soon. Bye.
3, 2, 1.
Please forgive me, unborn child of mine. Okay, here we go. Worst thing I've ever made, a baby. They just make you fat and give you stretch marks. No, I'm totally kidding. It's wonderful.
So it was lockdown, and me and a friend of mine thought, hey, let's start this YouTube channel called Good Question Show. Yeah, worst thing we ever made.
Worst thing I've ever made? Well, I made this friend called Franco. Yes, man.
The worst thing I've ever made? I can't think of a thing right now, but the best thing I've ever made is my friend Tumi.
So worst thing I ever made was with my roommate at varsity. We had mints, and when we opened it was green, and we thought, well, it looks off, but then meat, it changes color just before it's at its best. But then it didn't smell really good, and we didn't have other food. So we decided, well, if you cook it, the smell will go away. And if you put enough spices, it won't taste as bad. And once we started cooking, the smell didn't go away. It filled the whole room. And so it still smelled bad. And then we decided to still eat it because we've committed, so we've gone so far. And we added chili sauce, thinking that will change the taste. And it didn't. It tasted the same. But we thought, hey, it's not going to make us sick. But it did.
Worst thing I've ever made, editing the Good Question Show videos. It's kind of a burn of myself though. There's nog alles.
Ek staan super stil. Dat ek in dieselfde plek is.